This is breaking news.
Stories we want to tell, in conversation with Gemini Wahhaj. In Gemini Wahhaj's debut novel, The Children of This Madness, the narrative revolves around the lives of engineering professor Nasir Uddin and his daughter Beena, an aspiring PhD candidate living in the U.S. Nasir Uddin rises from humble beginnings to become an engineering professor amidst the backdrop of the 47 Partition and 71 Liberation War, while Beena chooses to pursue literature and begins her PhD journey in the U.S. This isn't your conventional immigrant story, told through the altering voices of a father and daughter. It's a book about aspirations, the weight of the past, and the journeys we take. Shedding light on the intricacies of the Bengali-American immigrant journey, this book serves as a significant contribution to our evolving diasporic literary landscape. Wahaj, with an engineering background, penned the novel while pursuing her graduate studies in the creative writing program at the University of Houston. During our conversation, Wahaj shares about the narrative style of her book, the emergence of her protagonist's voice, inspiration that led her to write about the children of madness, her experience with publishing with small presses, and more. To begin, the narrative style for this book is quite intriguing. You crafted the narrative of the book through the dual lenses of a daughter and a father, and there is also Rahela, the mother, whose perspective comes into focus briefly. While portraying Beena, you opted for a third-person perspective, but for Nasir's character, you chose a first-person narrative. Could you elaborate on the reasoning behind this stylistic choice? I've been receiving this question quite frequently, and it's intriguing to observe the various perspectives people have. When I initially wrote the book, it took on a different form organically. There were numerous chapters, yet none focused on Beena. So the book was organically a completely different book, and there were many more chapters about Rahela. And the alternating first-person and third-person voice wasn't a regular pattern either. Sometimes I portrayed Nasir Uddin in the third person, while other times I adopted a first-person perspective. My aim was simply to narrate the story in whatever manner seemed fitting. It was linear. I was progressing towards an end in an arc. In each chapter, I was trying to tell a certain part of the story from the best possible angle. So I wrote the novel in a very different style, and then I realized that in America, there is an expectation that a novel has to be structured in a regular style pattern of a dual narrative and be structured. I was told that the book is good, but I couldn't have 5 chapters from one character, then suddenly 1 chapter, and then 10. The reader has an expectation, so I completely changed the structure of the book. The honest answer is I was responding to the structural expectation as it's my first novel. It's intriguing to learn that there were initially no chapters dedicated to Beena, especially considering that she and her father, Nasir Uddin, emerge as the primary characters in the final manuscript. Can you elaborate on when Beena's voice started to take shape within your story and ultimately became the central focus? In the original manuscript, Beena had no story. She is simply an unsuccessful daughter lamenting, "How did this happen? My brother isn't successful, I'm not successful, and my parents are a mess, while everyone else thrives." For me, that impulse in question is authentic, because I'm not successful. My parents died young. My husband and I aren't successful in the traditional sense. It's a quintessentially Bengali question to pursue success. No matter how idealistic you are, you aspire to win. I believe that's a significant aspect of the middle-class Bengali identity, even though we may not perceive it that way. I had to live in America for 20 years to find out Beena's story. Her narrative revolves around securing her immigration status because when you arrive in America, your primary focus becomes security. You view yourself in terms of your immigration status and employment. When I see young people who have just arrived in America and see how much they have to get in place, I'm both surprised and reminded of when I first arrived. They are preoccupied with their job, their OPT, and the expiration of their F1 visa. They inhabit an entirely different realm. That was Beena's story, that she was desperate to secure her position. When Beena was not part of the story, when she was simply a bookend, I could portray her as a flawless, innocent character who observes the other Bangladeshi immigrants and asks, "Why are they so corrupt?" But when she became part of the story, she had to become more like the other characters.